Good morning. I'm Bob Bakert with the Jazz Guitar Today magazine. If you're enjoying our videos and our interviews, you might want to get one of our shirts and subscribe down below. You'll see the subscribe button. We appreciate that. Ring the bell. I think you all know what that's about, to see our new content. And we also, by the way, we also have mugs. So you can subscribe to our magazine. It's free, and you can subscribe to Facebook, to YouTube, and keep watching all this content. So we're here today with Jimmy Bruno, who needs really no introduction, that's for sure. How you doing, Jimmy?
Pretty good, Bob.
Well, that sounds great. What are you playing? What guitar is that?
Oh, this is Sadowski's Jimmy Bruno model.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we're big fans of Sadowski guitars here.
Me too.
So very, very cool. I was just watching your live from Bruno's bunker video on YouTube.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. How often you doing that?
Since the start of the pandemic, but we stopped after a while.
Okay. Well,
I stopped.
Go ahead.
Maybe about a month ago.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of videos up there. So it's YouTube. It's called Bruno's Bunker. Is that what you're calling it?
Yeah.
Well, that's really, really cool. So, these are little quick hit interviews that we're doing to kind of catch up with people and find out what's going on in their world. So what's going on in your world? What's new? What's hot?
Music. Some work is coming back. Me and Frank have a couple things coming up. There's a big Jersey jazz camp at the end of August. And then if all goes well, I think we're going to do the...
So you and Frank are doing what?
The big Jersey jazz guitar camp. It's the last week in August. It's sold out already, but you can look it up. And I think they're tentatively, if all goes well, the politicians stay out of the music business. September 27th is going to be... we'll start guitar night at the Iridium.
September 27th, my birthday.
Yeah.
I might have to figure out a way to get up there for that.
Yeah. And so the other thing is that I'm fortunate enough to be out of the music business completely.
You're out of the music business completely?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't have to rely on it for income.
Right.
So now I just do gigs that I want to do and who I want to play with.
Okay.
So,
that's a great place to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it only took me my whole life. And I wish that they would, in music schools, I wish they would teach musicians about the music business instead of those useless D Dorian scale over D minor 7. That's totally useless. But at least if a parent sends their kid to music school for $30,000 or $40,000 a year, at least they should teach somebody about, how the music business works.
I will say this about Georgia State, where I went to school, Georgia State University, that in the jazz department, they have a class and they have lectures and all that, and how to make a living in the music business, and they do pay attention to that. Gordon Bernick is the head of that department down there, has been for years. And he's a very astute guy and understands the realities of, people got to know more than how to play their instrument, to survive.
The thing that young people miss is the fact that, the music, it's not that hard. It really isn't that hard to understand. First of all, you got to get, if you're not working, musicians have a tendency, it's all a click.
Right.
Who and all that. Well, the only people that say that are people who can't play. But it's not true. There's, I've had so many guitar players when I lived in LA, and most of my work, which I consider local work, is in New York. That I get all that from guitar players to turn me over to different places. Hey, can you sub for me? And we call this guy, call that guy. So it really isn't about it's just about whether you can play, have something to say, And the other thing is that in the beginning when I started, if you play for $100, you're always going to get $100.
Right.
Okay. Now in the beginning, when nobody knows who Jimmy Bruno is, I did everything.
Right.
all kind of work, you know. First CD come out, now all of a sudden those $100 gigs turned into $500 gigs. Okay.
Right.
Second CD, third CD, now they're instead of $100 gigs, now we're talking $1,000 gigs.
Right.
You know, it gets higher and higher
Mm-hmm.
the longer you hang in there. So now I feared I had this one thing now. You know, the pandemic is pretty much coming to a close here, and you know, some musicians are so desperate to play that they'll play for short money.
Mm-hmm.
And in typical musician fashion, they'll ruin it for themselves because they don't understand how the music business works.
Right.
I think, you know, and it's hard, you know, and I'll tell you, you know, venues, concert promoters, venues, jazz. I mean, they, you know, these people aren't stupid.
Right.
Oh, they know what's going on. They have to. Their livelihood depends on that. I mean, especially in New York. I mean, you know, their rents are astronomical.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to. It's like kind of like a catch-22. They want to hire people that are going to put people in those seats.
Right.
You know, and so I've noticed during the pandemic that there were some very well-known musicians that played for shit money,
Right.
really low money.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, this is one of those things that I hope that I'm wrong, but I don't think I am.
Well, you know, one of the things that it occurred to me. I'm sorry.
I don't think it'll come back for guys that did it. I really don't.
Yeah. One of the things that occurred to me a while back when I used to play for a living back in the 70s and well, in the 70s.
Right.
That's all I did. I didn't teach. I didn't work in a music store. I didn't, you know, pump gas back in those days.
It's a lot of work in this.
I didn't do anything but play the guitar and sing. And I played 5-6 nights a week, and I would play happy hours. I would do whatever I could, weddings, bar mitzvahs, funerals. But I always had a steady 5 or 6 night a week gig at the same hotel, same lounge, same restaurant, same this, that, the other thing for 15 years. But today, and I was a professional musician, that's what I did. But today, I don't know anybody like that. I mean, there are people out there that's how that, but everybody teaches. Everybody's got 3 or 4 hustles going on. Everybody, you know, there's, you know, back in those days, I mean, guys that played out professionally, they didn't teach. I mean, they just didn't. First of all, they didn't have the energy for it because they're playing 5-6 nights a week, but they just didn't teach. And so today, like a lot of the guys that play have, you know, university jobs, or they're working in high schools. They're teaching here, they're teaching there. They've got a Zoom, you know, so there's multiple paths of income, or some of these guys have taken regular gigs. You know, they're at Home Depot or work for an insurance company or whatever they do. And so a lot of these guys, their primary income isn't being derived from playing the guitar. So for them, they'll charge $50 or 75. A lot of people, $50, $75, $100 gigs, a pretty good gig right now. Yeah. And they don't realize, or the musicians, to your point, they don't realize how much that's really screwing it up for the guy that's trying to be the professional musician. And it's a catch-22 because you know, the guys want to play and
really can be. On the other hand, though, I mean, you know, guys that have a day gig, in a lot of ways, they're better off because they don't. When they have to play the guitar or play music instrument, they're really enjoying it. They're really having fun.
Exactly.
You know? And that's how I got into it to begin with, besides parents being musicians. But it was a lot of fun, you know. And then I don't know. It comes a point where you realize, wait a minute, this is a lot of work.
Right.
You know, you have to practice. You know, you have to keep learning new things all the time. You know, otherwise, you get bored with yourself.
Right.
You know, so it could be very frustrating for a professional musician.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I'll just say one more thing about that is that back in those days, I would learn every frickin' song, even if I wanted to play it or didn't want to play it, because I knew I had to learn these songs in order to make money. And I tell people it's where my soul went to die. You know? And so,
well, it can have that effect.
Yeah, no, it can, and people that laugh at that understand exactly what I'm talking about.
Right.
But you know, and then and you know, in the old days, an amateur almost had higher status than a professional. I'm talking about way back, centuries
Right.
ago,
Yeah.
because they weren't, you know, they recognized back then that they weren't beholden to, you know, this person or that person or their benefactors and all of that in order, you know,
Yeah.
to play what they wanted to play. Like, what's the famous quote? We're talking about one of Mozart's pieces in the movie. It says,
Yeah.
"Too many notes,
Too many notes.
too
Yeah.
many
And
notes."
so
You know,
which ones? Which
yeah,
one?
Mozart.
I know. I love that. I love that. I mean, it really is. I think that uh, it took me a long time to figure out that. Look, you're not going to be playing for musicologists,
Right.
guys that teach theory. I mean, there's no guy in the back that's going to turn to his wife and say, "Geez, Rose, you hear that, man? That was a mixolydian with a sharp four." And I'm impressed. So that never happened.
Or she says to him, "Wow, that was a mix of," you know.
Right? Yeah, man. To catch, man, he altered the ninth.
Yeah.
So, but I found out that how I the connection to a general audience of that love jazz. Okay, it has to feel like something. It has to have a good. I hate to say it has to have a good beat.
Sure.
You
and
know,
easy to dance to, as I said.
I mean, you have to really reach somebody.
Right.
So it has to have a feel.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be a good feel, and that's true whether it's eighth note rock music. That's what gets me. I recently just screwing around on YouTube the other day. I found a band. It's called Lucy Woodward. It is the girl singer,
Right.
and the tune that I heard it's called. Oh, geez, give me that. Play that funk, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And it's about the guy. The expression. He's got a monkey on his back.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, this tune is about these musicians, and they have to play funk music because it's like a monkey on their back. The band is so tight. They have a horn section. There's a great guitarist, and he's playing a strat.
Mm-hmm.
Rock style music.
Right.
And it is the feel is so strong.
Mm-hmm.
She sings great. She's a jazz singer. She can sing jazz. She can sing this stuff. Lucy
Right.
Woodward.
I'm sure she appreciates the shout out, as they say.
Oh, I'll tell you, man, what a great band. I mean, boy, I would love to play in a band like that, even for a little while.
I'm sure they would have you if they knew,
All about the feel, and it's a simple tune, but it's good. It really is good. I listen to it all the time, and so getting back to my point, that's
right.
That's what audiences can relate to. I mean, if you play for a whole bunch of guitar players, they'll all sit there and say, "Boy, I could play that better than him."
Oh yeah, what's the old joke? How many guitar players does it take to screw in a light bulb?
Right. Well, it's
10, 1 to screw in the light bulb, and 9 to say that ain't shit. I can do better.
I can do better. That's right. Yeah. That's exactly right. Yeah. So, I mean, it's nice when like, okay, early on when I first went to New York, I mean, I was really knocked out by the fact that George Benson came see me play.
But that'd be knocked out. Anybody be knocked out by that.
Every time that I played in New York and he was off, there he was. And in Philly, when Pat Martino was off, he'd come.
Yeah.
Came when he could.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so, there's playing for musicians, and there's playing for successful musicians. I don't know.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah, I know what you mean.
And I remember that first night at the Zinc Bar in New York. I met every guitar player that I ever wanted to meet that night. Jack Wilkins, Paul Bollenbach, Russell Malone, Frank Vignola, Howard Alden. I'm leaving tons of people out.
Now, when was this?
Oh God, geez, a long time ago.
Oh, okay, all right.
I can't remember. I really don't know how long ago.
Oh, okay. And this wasn't like recently. You didn't play a guitar
No.
night or something like that. Okay.
No, it was maybe at least 25, 30 years ago.
Well, I remember you. I remember the first time I met you was back. We talked about this. Was with Eddie Mathis had his store, and you came down to do seminars, and he would do a show in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia.
That's right. Yeah.
And you were playing some, excuse my expression, you were playing some crazy shit back then, and so I'm sure that the George Bensons of the world and all that were appreciative of your skills and your abilities. Yeah. Speaking of which, what are you playing now? What do you what kind of tunes do you like to call? What do you?
Well, I've been doing a lot of writing, and also there's a whole bunch of tunes that like I used to play that just haven't played in a while. For one, this.
Right.
I heard it when I was a kid. I heard a Oscar Peterson play it.
Yeah,
real fast. And boy, that I remember when I first heard it. Boy, I got to learn that song. I want to play like that. And I haven't played that song in maybe 25 years. You know,
mm-hmm.
And I don't know what made me.
Tell people the name of it so they can look it up.
Pick Yourself Up.
Pardon me? Pick Yourself Up. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. No. I want, some people might not have heard that tune. I want to give them the name of it.
Minor A7, D minor
right.
G7.
Pick Yourself Up. Da 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 da. Yeah.
And it's the same thing, a whole step higher.
Mm-hmm.
Etc.
Woo! There you go. You know, don't let me interrupt you. That's great stuff. You know what? I know you and obviously you and Frank are good buddies, and you're doing Frank. We're talking about Frank Vignola, and you're doing the things together. But and Frank is a wonderful, marvelous player and a great teacher. And the thing that you two guys have in common is you both know what song you're playing at any given time. You know, you play the melody, you know.
Well, you know, Frank has such a strong feel.
He does.
That, I mean, he always makes me sound good because he swings so hard.
He does.
I can have an off night and not play great, but he always makes me sound good. And I hope it's vice versa, you know.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
It's so easy to play with him. Everything is, he plays very, there's not like.
Right.
You know, that's a lost art. How to accompany somebody.
And I played with Frank a couple of times, and you always know where one is.
Oh yeah, it's not a mystery. Oh, you know, I mean, you know, it's a lost art. I mean, you know, right. Some guitar players, you know, some of those guitar shows that come around, I really don't like them to go to because, you know, a lot of guys will just pick up a guitar and you're playing and they just start playing along with you. And, you know, they can't accompany anybody.
Right.
You know, it's sound the same when they're soloing and then they're comping. It's the exact same thing.
Right.
When he's comping, he's still soloing. and at the same volume. You know, there's no difference.
Yeah, I've played with some drummers like that.
Well, that's it. Well, some of those drummers, they should have their own band.
Yes, absolutely.
But
I know exactly what you mean. That comping is a lost art, and
Yeah.
You know, less is best, so that you allow the soloist to go where he wants to go.
Yeah, that is the truth. You know, I mean, the first thing to do is be careful of what note you put on top of a chord like this. You know, I mean, because you know the real book, if it says G7 flat 9, these guys are playing that. Okay,
right.
And they're voicing it like that, which makes it sound like a diminished chord where it's really this.
Right.
Okay, so two guitar players, this is better.
Right.
Okay.
Just a regular G dominant triad. Yeah.
A lot of times in the real
well, actually,
book,
you know, root 7/3. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
A lot of times in the real book, if the melody note is an A flat, they'll call the chord G7 flat 9. And
right.
It's not, it's just G7.
Right.
You know,
yep.
And so you know, this is okay. You know, here's the thing is that
the add 9, 13 add 9.
This music is improvised.
Right.
So a good accompanist and somebody that's playing the changes, they're improvising while they're playing the chords as well.
Right.
They're not playing the same voicings or the same things at chorus after chorus after chorus. You know, but kids that come out of school, you know, they play what's on the page.
Well, let me speak to that just for a second. So we did a thing about piano players and guitar players playing together.
Yeah.
And
that could be another nightmare.
Well, yeah. Well, typically, I mean, try not to both comp at the same time. Or there's a piano player in Atlanta who is a good friend and an amazing player. His name is Kevin Bales.
Mm-hmm.
And Kevin's played all over the world. Well, you know, he's played a lot, and he's a great teacher. I mean, he teaches at Georgia State. I've taken a couple of his classes, and I talked to him the other day. Anyway, but when Kevin starts a solo, I just hold my guitar, because if I do anything, he loves to take harmonically and just go in all these places. And if I do anything, I'm not going to allow him to go where he wants to go.
That's right. You have to lay out. Do you know something? There's a good friend of mine named Joe Finn, guitar player, New York.
Yeah, right. I know of Joe. Yesterday.
We left off with Joe Finn.
I did talk with Joe Finn. Actually, I called him. We talked today.
Oh, you're kidding. But that's
the
thing that you and I talked about was that CD.
Yeah, well, actually, I contacted him because of our conversation.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I just said, hey, you know, let's talk next week. And I
know him for such a long time.
Yeah,
from guitar shows. He's very soft-spoken, very kind of, what's the word? A meek guy.
Well,
you know, like the opposite of me. See, he has class. I'm like 180 degrees, you know, very well spoken. I really enjoyed being his friend. I think we met. I'll tell you how far it goes back. It was when Ed Benson had Just Jazz Guitar magazine.
Right.
And it was something at a New York guitar show, 510 College.
Yeah.
It was when they first started those guitar shows.
Right.
It was at Five Towns College. I forget where it is, but they don't have them anymore.
Yeah.
I'm still friends with a whole bunch of guys I know from there. Raymond Tusa too. He used to write for 20th Century Guitar magazine.
Yeah.
In fact, that's who started the show, I think.
Yeah, I know Ray. Ray's a good buddy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, he's there's a whole bunch of you guys up there. So I was gonna move right along. This is for those of you out there in TV land, but this is our second conversation in 2 days. I'm Bob Bakert with Jazz Guitar Today. We're here with, man, how do you describe Jimmy Bruno? I don't know. I mean, you know, everybody I talk to just admires the hell out of your playing so much. It's ridiculous. I had a nice conversation with Roger Sadowski.
Oh, yeah, Roger. Good buddy.
Yeah, and we were talking about an early record, you know, that you made with Frank and how good it was. It was one of his all-time favorites, Frank Vignola.
Yeah.
And, so I'm going to do a little ad. Jazz Guitar Today, we've got merch. We've got shirts. We've got cups. We've got hats. We've got all kinds of things for men and women and unisex, I guess. And if you like what we're doing here, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've decided to start promoting that. Check us out on Facebook, etc. So we're here with the legendary, great Jimmy frickin' Bruno. Unbelievable. There you are. Almost in the flesh. So I got a couple questions for you. I was thinking about this morning when I've been up since early. I don't normally ask this question of anybody, but your playing is so unique. It really is. I mean, your approach is, I was listening to some of the stuff that you do sweeps, you do alternate, you do all down, you do this, you do that, you vary everything. I mean, so a couple of questions for you. First of all, are you aware of all that, or you just play?
No, I'm aware of it.
I thought you were. That was kind of a question I knew the answer to.
People pointed out to me.
Mm-hmm.
They've been doing it for a long time.
Right.
There was a time where, you get typecast like an actor, right?
Yeah, right.
And like for a while there, every record that I did for Concord, everybody wanted to hear it. And I finally talked them out of doing a record where there was a whole bunch of tunes that were real fast.
Right.
And I don't remember which. Let me see. 1, 2, 3. The third one was with Joey. Did some slow stuff on that. I think it was Midnight Blue, where I just changed everything around.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't even the swing band anymore. Mm-hmm. Different kind of rhythm section. And I still want to do a CD with all ballads.
Right.
People. It was hard to get away from that. I mean, I still like to play fast,
Oh yeah. Of
course, but like that Burning record. I mean, it did well for Concord and it did well for me. But it's funny. These records, by the time you make them, when they get released, sometimes it's about a year away.
Mm-hmm.
Some 6, 7 months. And so by the time the record comes out, I'm playing some different stuff by then.
Right.
And then you have to go out on the road.
Yeah, and play the stuff you did a year ago.
That's what they want to hear, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like to this day, every place that I go, everybody wants to hear Egg Playing Pizza, which was on the first CD. I mean, I can't make head nor tails of why certain songs certain cuts catch on and certain ones don't. Like on that Burning record, the one that I like the best is the original tune. I forget. It's called Rose for Peg.
Mm-hmm.
And it's slow, but nobody likes that one except me.
Well, keep playing it.
Yeah, and there was another one on the first record. I get this one. Big Shoes called.
Mm-hmm.
It's based on this kind of the same chords of There Is No Greater Love.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another one that's popular. And some of the other ones, like the original tunes, a lot of original tunes were on the record called Like That, the one with Joey. And I never play those songs anymore. In fact, I have to listen to the record so they come back to me. I lost all the music. And those tunes are they're written in such a way that you do need a keyboard player. It doesn't have to be an organ, but you have to have a piano player. Because some of them are like kind of, I guess they're modal, these kind of chords.
Yeah.
And then if you just have a bass player playing that, loses its effect.
Right.
It bores me. And I'm playing. So those tunes, you need a keyboard player. and I get asked that a lot, play this, play that, but sometimes, most of the time, play with a trio,
Right.
it's just easier to get work and, one less plane fare,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera. It goes on and on.
Hmm.
But I'm glad. I mean, I'm not complaining about it at all.
Well, a couple things about that is one is if you go see Led Zeppelin, you're going to expect them to play Stairway to Heaven.
Well, yeah, I want to hear that too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So the people, you got your own Stairway to Heavens out there, people that identify very heavily with.
Something? I'm a big fan of Earth, Wind, and Fire. I really am. I love that band. And in August or September, they're coming to Hershey, PA.
Mm-hmm.
And me and my wife bought tickets. She bought them 2 years ago because the band came. And I know the bass player from that band. I knew a couple of the other people, but they passed away, I think.
Right.
So I want to hear those tunes. Getaway. And those things,
Yeah.
And the last time I did see them, they were in Atlantic City.
Right.
And they sound, some of those kind of, those type of bands, when you hear them live, sometimes they suck, because they do everything, in the studio. This is one of the few bands, they're better in person.
They're better in person. I know a few bands like that. Mm-hmm.
It's like it's hard to describe. It actually is better.
Well, my point being that people identify you with certain tunes, they want to hear you play them.
Yeah.
So let me ask you another question. If someone was to let's say you're not you, but I'm gonna ask you the question as not Jimmy Bruno, but as a guitarologist. Let's make up a word. And someone said, what are the hallmarks if you had to pick 3 or 4 things that kind of identify Jimmy Bruno's style, Jimmy Bruno's playing? Is there something that you can identify that he does? That's obviously Jimmy. It's just it's kind of his approach.
Pedal notes. I get asked that all the time. And that's from me listening to Stravinsky too much as a kid.
Right.
He used a lot of ostinato things, Mm-hmm. So I kind of stole that idea from him. Like those kind of. That's from Petrushka. Contrary Motion. I stole that from. Well, it's just I like the bridge of Satin Doll. That's it. Let me get that right.
I got it.
Another one.
Well, there's Contrary Motion for you. That's a lot of it.
Another thing that I like to do. These are things that.
Yeah, keep going. I love this. This is great.
Things like this, they don't really stick out because it's not flashy. Like D7 chord, moving something in the middle.
Right. remember very distinctly the first time I heard you play pedal notes.
Yeah.
It was at an AM show.
Uh-huh.
You were playing in a booth and jamming, and then you whipped out that basically that lick that you were just playing, that pedal note lick, and I went, what the F is that? Is that?
Yeah.
And I've never, it's funny that you picked that one out, because I've never seen anybody else really utilize that. So you've gone back, you've drawn a lot on classical music and classical. We've talked about this in your other interview, but just to let people know that you've gone back to classical music, you've listened to a lot of classical music, and you've adapted some of the elements of that music into your guitar playing.
Yeah. People always ask me sometimes if I ever studied classical guitar, and I never did.
Right.
When I was younger, I tried it. I suck at that.
Right.
Really, it's difficult. You might as well hand me a trombone. It's completely different.
It's all in the right hand. There's so much right hand technique. It's ridiculous.
And I mean, I play with fingers a lot, but but it's bastardized. I don't have any method for that.
Right.
I learned to do it by watching the TV, and I was too lazy to get up and go find a pick. It's the truth.
Well, it's really funny. When you put down the pick, I noticed that in my own playing, when I put down the pick, I think a lot more.
Yeah, and it makes better sense.
I slow down a lot.
Oh yeah, I love to play with fingers.
Yeah.
One time I was playing this place in Philly, and an old guy with a bald head, kept getting up from the table and coming over and looking at my right hand. And kind of started to bug me after a while. Where's this guy? So I went over to him. Guess who it is? And it was Manuel Barreca.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, he says, "Boy, don't you know that you're not supposed to be able to do that the way you're doing it?" Yeah, I had such a nice conversation with him.
Did you tell him you were a bumblebee and I'm really not supposed to fly?
Yeah, I mean, I had such a good, I did get a lesson with him with the right hand, and in the club, he did show me, like that.
Yeah.
I said,
even that technique, not that I'm up on it, but when I studied it for a little while, I was never any good at it. But
hard.
They had this whole draping thing going on, and the way the hand, they flattened out the hand now, which made it more natural for me. But I can't play it at all.
There's a yes stroke.
Yeah, forget it. I can't do that. Jeff Beck throws away the pick. He plays all of the things that he does with no pick and his right hand.
That I don't know exactly when he did it. With John Abercrombie.
Yeah.
When I met John, he wasn't playing with a pick at all.
Right. Yeah. A lot of guys have put it down, and
I stopped playing with the pick.
It definitely makes you think.
Yeah, and I said, "Why did you do that?" He says, "I didn't like what I was playing."
Yeah.
So he was looking for something else, And unfortunately, he passed away shortly after that,
So you do teach, don't you?
Yeah, a lot.
What would you say is the hallmark of your teaching approach?
Well,
if someone comes to you and let's say they're like a mediocre average guy, that maybe he's a good rock player, maybe he's a good blues player, maybe he's a good country player, and he wants to learn more about jazz.
I fixed their fingerings first.
Oh, okay.
I have a way. I've been doing this for a while.
I've got that book.
It keeps changing.
Oh, okay.
It's like I hung around with too many saxophone players, and not that that's bad, but I got the idea from them because I would listen to them practice, and they would play from the lowest note. Like if they were going to play an E flat scale, right? They would play from their lowest note, which is a B flat. And the next key would be A flat, but they would still start it on B flat.
Right.
The lowest note to the highest note. So I just start doing it to the guitar. Like if you look at the piano, it's all the white notes.
Right.
There they are. The problem is is that because it's the guitar, there's 5 of them
Right.
in each key.
Right.
So what it does is they turn out to be symmetrical. And so same finger, same sound all the time. So if you learn like that to begin with, you associate a sound with a finger and the way it looks.
Right.
That's the piano. The piano has 12 pictures because there's 12 keys.
Right.
Each key on the guitar has 5, so there's 60.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes a little more complicated, but basically it's still the same. You know, like you can't learn a C scale and have. I'll never play that while improvising. I'll never use that.
Right.
You know, so I just eliminated it down to 5 fingerings, and I call them pitch collections or tonal centers.
Right.
They're not scales or modes.
Right.
And so same finger gets the same sound, you know, and all the outside notes or the tension notes, if they're not under your finger, like on D minor, there's C sharp. If they're not under your finger, they're that way.
Right.
And it just seems to make you get usable fingerings that way.
Well, you know what? Thank you for sharing that. You've been very generous with us today. I'm going to wrap this up with just the last thing. I want you to remind people about the thing that you and Frank have got going, even though it's sold out. You and Frank Vignola have got a camp coming up. Is it next week?
I think it's the last week in August.
Oh, excuse me, last week of August. And that.
Yeah. And then, you know, we also have some other events coming up. It's now traveling, this thing.
Okay.
There's some stuff coming up that's on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Colorado, I think it's going to hook up with the Rocky Mountain Archtop Festival.
Yeah, right. Next year, actually.
You're right. Yeah, it's.
Oh, there's one. There's one. Yeah, but he's coordinating something this year, though. That's right. I think I saw that.
Yeah, but I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm speaking out of really way out of school here.
Well, you know, he has his website is pretty accurate, Peter Henriksen.
Oh yeah.
You know, and there's a he recently did something with Bruce Foreman.
Right.
Barney Kessel guitar. Right.
Yeah, we're going to be doing something with Bruce in the magazine later this year.
Bruce Foreman has got to be one of my favorite guitar players in the world.
He's a pretty amazing guy. Yeah.
We were on Concord at the same time for a couple CDs, but we never did record together.
Right.
And I met him so many times, and the last time I saw him was at the show that we were at.
Yeah, we were out there. We were out there at Rocky Mountain Guitar Festival.
Yeah, I mean, he's my hero, man. He wrote a book. He wrote a novel. You know, and he has the best sense of humor. I kind of lost track of him. I always thought that he lived in Los Angeles. I thought, you know, but it's not.
Yeah, I think he's up north actually.
San Francisco.
Yeah, and then he flies down because he teaches down in LA.
Right. And so I says to him, "Hey, Bruce, where are you living these days?" He said to me, "In the past." I mean,
that sounds like him.
I mean, it's you know, I mean, not only do I love his playing, I just love. He's got the best sense of humor.
He's a great guy. He's obviously he's a high intellect, you know, and you gotta put your thinking cap on when you have a conversation with him for sure.
I saw him do a thing at that show in Colorado where he's talking, right, and soloing over giant steps at the same time. You know?
I don't want to know about that. I'm kidding.
And so I really started to pay attention to I says, he can't be doing, you know, he's just bullshitting, right?
Right.
And so I stopped to listen to what he was saying, and I listened to what he was playing. It's like, oh no, he wasn't bullshitting at all. He made every chord in the thing and fast.
Yeah.
I mean, man, that's you could tell that he's spent a lot of time practicing the guitar and practicing that, you know, that tune. That's you know, it's a hard tune.
My favorite Jimmy Bruno quote, because I listened to you actually said this came out of your mouth.
Great.
we're talking about giant. Somebody asked you about giant steps. He says, "Oh hell, we're all just hanging out for dear life on that one."
Yeah, that is true. Yeah,
You did say that.
Don't get lost in that tune. See,
I think you had another word or two in there that I'm leaving out, but
probably curse word.
Yeah, one or two. That's okay. Yeah, I mean, you know, once you get lost, it's pretty hard to find your way back home.
Give up. Give up. Not gonna, you'll never find where you are.
Sit out. Just hold the guitar in your hands for a few minutes until you.
There's some guys that they actually write books about how to solo over it.
Oh, I know.
I mean, wait a minute. It's no different than any other tune. It's just learn how to play over each chord.
Right.
That's it. I mean, there's no shortcuts. All those books, they're good in case you have a table in your house that's like uneven. You can get the book and put it under one of the legs. The books are good for that. I'm sure I'd go over books to all the guys that wrote books on it.
Well, listen, Jimmy, I got to tell you, I so appreciate you coming on and talking to me and talking to us here.
Bob. So we'll do it again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. We're gonna. Well, I got to call into Frank. Gonna keep. Frank's a really a good ambassador for us. We've done a bunch of things with him, and he's great. And Bruce, we've got some stuff coming. That's the Barney Kessel guitar. He actually got Barney's guitar. He said it's pretty rough. This was, I don't want to give away too much. He said it plays so bad. He said Barney kept it that way to keep people from wanting to play it.
Yeah, I did get to meet him and hang out with him. But this was post his stroke, and he had written a thing in Guitar Player magazine.
Right.
One time that was so controversial.
Right.
He put down everybody.
Right.
Put all kind of different music down, and he was just so correct.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether I would have put it that way. Well, now I probably would.
Yeah.
Because I don't care. But he was talking to me and Jack Wilkins.
Right.
At one of those tributes to him, and I asked him. I said, "Well, in what year did you play with somebody?" Okay,
right.
And he could speak, but he couldn't say numbers.
Oh.
It was part of the stroke, so he would draw in the air like this. And his wife Phyllis was there, and we're looking at her, and he says, "Oh, he's just said 1953." For some reason, he could come up with words.
Right.
He couldn't say numbers.
I was fortunate enough to hear him play. There was a really high-end restaurant in Atlanta, Georgia, back in the 80s, maybe late 70s.
Right.
And the guy that owned it was a huge jazz guitar fan, and he's still around. I think he subscribed to the magazine. And he brought in Barney and Herb, and I even think Joe Pass, to play. They're playing basically solo or maybe a bass player, something like that.
Right, yeah.
And I got to hear Barney twice there, I believe, from like 3 feet away, because a lot of people in those days, really nobody knew who he was,
right,
or so to speak. There was, and I was about 3 or 4 feet away. I got to talk with him for a few minutes. I was a very young man at the time, and he was really gracious. He played beautifully.
Oh yeah,
and it was
swinging guitar players ever.
Yeah, I'll never forget that experience. I also got to see Grant Green kind of like that, a whole different deal. I was only 18 or 19. I was in downtown Buffalo.
Yeah.
And he came through a club there, and it was like a Tuesday night or something. And I went, the line in the one of those James Bond movies, I was a cue ball in Harlem.
Yeah.
I was literally a cue ball in Harlem.
Yeah.
But I didn't give a damn. I'm going to go see Grant Green. That was all I cared about.
Well, I mean, I had heard about Grant Green.
Yeah.
Okay. And every once in a while, I would come across an album or something like that, and I would put it on and go, "Man, this is not that good."
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I met George Benson,
right,
at the bar in New York, I says, "Who do you listen to?"
Right.
He says, Grant Green.
Right.
And I told him this story. He says, "Oh, you got all the wrong records."
Right.
And he gave me some background on his personal life. And he says, "No, get this, listen to that, listen to this." And of course, he was right. I mean,
Yeah,
he was fantastic. You know,
he had a power in his playing that
yeah,
I still remember.
yeah.
He
His
would play the
daughter
what?
wrote a book about him. It's either his daughter, I think it's his daughter or his son wrote a book about him. I did get the book too.
One of his sons tours now or plays now. It's Grant Green Jr. He's not actually. He's one of the sons. His name isn't really Grant Green, but he took that over from the.
Right.
There is a Grant Green Jr., but he borrowed the name from his brother because he's the guitar player in the family,
Okay.
and he's a monster player. I mean, he's just
I'm
a great
sure.
player. Grant Green Jr. Anyway, Jimmy, thank you so much.
All right.
I appreciate you. I can't tell you. Thank you for being so generous playing the guitar for us too, man.
Right.
People are going to dig that.
When you get it up.
I may get some information from you to, from some of the specifics so we can do some printing on it and stuff like that. But man, you are an American treasure. And I mean that sincerely.
Okay.
You really are. You're an American treasure, man. There's nobody like you.
I'll mention that to my wife when she tells me to take out the trash, and I'll say, "Wait a minute, don't you read the magazine?"
Yeah, I'm an American treasure. What are you talking about here?
I'm not going to buy it, but I'll use it.
Well, I do actually believe that. I think you're to be honored as often as possible. So, okay, bless you, my friend. I'll catch you later. Thank you.
I hope I see you soon.
We will. See you, Jimmy. Bye-bye.